If there's one thing you should know about my sister, it's this: she makes bad decisions with the confidence of a NASA scientist launching a rocket. And if there's one thing you should know about me, it's this: I'm usually the one who has to clean up the aftermath. Which is how, on a damp Thursday morning, I found myself standing in front of the Maplewood Animal Rescue with a cup of lukewarm coffee and the sinking realization that I had been manipulated. Again. Just come with me, Heather had said the night before, all breezy and innocent. I need a second opinion on a dog. You're great with opinions. She paused, then added, also, you have a car. Now here I was, dripping rainwater onto my sneakers, staring at a hand-painted sign that read "Find your forever friend," in cheerful bubble letters. Inside, the place smelled like a combination of bleach, wet fur, and despair. A bell over the door jingled as we stepped in, and a chipper young volunteer appeared from behind the counter. Hi. Welcome to Maplewood, she chirped. Are you looking for a new best friend today? No, I said flatly. Yes, Heather said at the same time, her eyes sparkling with the kind of dangerous enthusiasm that usually precedes either a shopping spree or a minor explosion. The volunteer clapped her hands. Perfect. Let me show you some of our sweet babies. I muttered something about coffee and bad decisions, but Heather ignored me, striding down the hallway lined with kennels. Dogs of every shape, size, and volume yapped, barked, or howled as we passed. One particularly energetic chihuahua threw itself against the bars of its cage with enough force to make me step back. Heather stopped abruptly in front of a kennel near the end. Oh my God, she whispered, hands clutching the bars like some Victorian heroine spotting her long-lost lover. Look at him. I looked. And regretted it instantly. The dog inside was, well, to call him ugly would have been an insult to ugly things everywhere. He was a large, gangly mutt with wiry fur that stuck out at odd angles, one ear standing straight up while the other flopped over like it had given up on life. His eyes were two different colors, one bright blue, the other muddy brown, and he had a scar across his nose that made him look like he'd been in a bar fight. He wagged his tail lazily, then sneezed. No, I said immediately. Absolutely not. He looks like a science experiment gone wrong. Heather ignored me. Look at his little face, she cooed. He's perfect. He looks like he eats drywall. The volunteer beamed. Oh, that's Bingo. He's been here the longest, almost a year now. People keep passing him by, but he's such a sweet boy. Aren't you, Bingo? Bingo barked once, loud enough to make my coffee slosh. Then he sneezed again. Heather turned to me with that dangerous glint in her eye. We're taking him. We are not, I said. Heather, you live in a studio apartment the size of a closet. This dog looks like he needs his own zip code. She ignored me again, turning to the volunteer. What do I need to sign? 10 minutes later, paperwork in hand, Heather strutted out of the shelter with Bingo trotting beside her, tail wagging like a metronome on steroids. I followed reluctantly, already picturing the chaos this creature was going to unleash on my life. By Saturday morning, Bingo had successfully destroyed. *1 couch cushion. *2 pairs of Heather's shoes. And, somehow, my dignity. I don't even live with my sister, but the dog had a sixth sense for chaos and a talent for dragging me into it. Maybe he's just adjusting, Heather said, sipping her oat milk latte like a woman who wasn't standing in a living room that looked like the aftermath of a tornado. Adjusting? I stared at the shredded remains of what had once been a decorative pillow. Heather, he tried to eat my steering wheel yesterday. My steering wheel. Bingo, as if on cue, bounded into the room, his tail wagging so hard it smacked the side table, knocking over a vase. He barked once, loud, proud, and unapologetic. Heather smiled dreamily. He's got spirit. He's got a criminal record waiting to happen. By Monday, I'd become the unwilling co-parent of a creature who defied logic, reason, and, apparently, the laws of physics. Every time I came over to help Heather, Bingo greeted me like I'd been gone for years, jumping, barking, spinning in manic circles. And then there was the incident at the dog park. Heather had insisted Bingo needed socialization. What he got was a felony-level vendetta with a French bulldog named Napoleon. The moment we walked through the gate, Bingo locked eyes with the little gremlin. Napoleon growled. Bingo barked. And then, chaos. I don't know how to describe what happened next except to say that at one point, I was tangled in two leashes, Heather was yelling, "Use your calm energy," like she was some kind of budget dog whisperer, and a toddler was crying because Bingo had stolen his juice box. When it was over, Napoleon was sulking in his owner's arms, Bingo was drinking from the communal water bowl like a champion, and I was Googling, "Can dogs be exorcised?" But here's the thing, somewhere between the disasters, something weird happened. I started liking him. Not in an "I'm going to get a matching sweater" way, but in a reluctant, "fine, maybe you're not Satan" way. He'd sit next to me when I worked on my laptop, his mismatched eyes watching me like he was silently judging my life choices. He'd curl up on the floor near my chair, snoring like a tractor. And once, just once, when I was having a particularly bad day, he rested his goofy head on my knee, and I swear, it felt like the universe hit a pause button. Then came the HOA meeting. Heather's building had an overly dramatic homeowners association that treated minor infractions like federal crimes. Bingo, naturally, had become public enemy number one after an incident involving an unattended rotisserie chicken and a communal grill. Heather begged me to attend the meeting with her for moral support, which is how I ended up sitting in a fluorescent-lit room, listening to a man named Carl list Bingo's crimes in a tone usually reserved for war tribunals. And then, Carl said, waving a piece of paper like it was Exhibit A in a murder trial, he dug up Mrs. Patel's prize-winning roses. Prize-winning. All eyes turned to Heather. She shrank in her chair, mumbling something about misunderstandings and high-energy dogs. And that's when Bingo, who Heather had insisted on bringing to show he's harmless, chose to break free of his leash, leap onto the refreshment table, and devour half a plate of Costco brownies in front of 20 horrified residents. I swear, I saw Carl's soul leave his body. By the time we got back to Heather's apartment, she was on the verge of tears. "They're going to make me get rid of him," she said, sitting on the floor with Bingo's big, dumb head in her lap. I looked at her, then at the dog, who was happily wagging his tail, oblivious to the chaos he'd created. And for the first time, the thought of him not being around made my chest ache. "Relax," I said finally. "We'll figure it out. Maybe if we teach him some basic commands. Or, I don't know, bribe Carl with brownies." Heather sniffled. "You'd really help me?" I sighed. "Yeah. But you're buying the next bag of dog food. That stuff costs more than my car payment." Training Bingo was like trying to teach algebra to a potato. Heather bought a stack of training books, hired a dog behavior consultant who charged more per hour than my therapist, and downloaded an app that promised to unlock your dog's hidden genius. The result? Bingo learned exactly one command: sit. And even that worked only if you were holding a chicken nugget. The HOA wasn't buying our progress. 2 weeks after the brownie massacre, Heather got an official letter taped to her door. "Final notice: remove the dog or face legal action." Heather read it, went pale, and sank onto the couch. "They're serious," she whispered. I looked at Bingo, who was gnawing on the leg of a chair like it was a chew toy from heaven, and felt a surge of something protective. "Nobody's kicking out this maniac," I said. "Not on my watch." The showdown came on a Saturday afternoon during the special session of the HOA. Carl, of course, presided like he'd been elected supreme leader of the complex. The plan was simple: keep Bingo calm, sit quietly, and let Heather plead her case. The plan died the moment a squirrel darted past the meeting window. Bingo saw it. Bingo lunged. The leash slipped. Chaos erupted. By the time we caught him, 3 chairs had toppled, someone's purse was shredded, and a plate of cookies had vanished. Carl was red in the face, practically vibrating with righteous fury. "This," he bellowed, pointing at Bingo like he was testifying in court, "is why this dog has to go." And then, just as Heather opened her mouth to cry, it happened. Mrs. Patel, the woman with the prized roses, walked into the room, looking frazzled. "Help," she shouted. "Help, someone call an ambulance." Apparently, her elderly husband had collapsed by the garden. People froze, nobody knowing what to do, until Bingo bolted. I swear, it was like something out of a movie. The dog sprinted out the door, straight to the garden, barking like mad to get everyone's attention. We followed, panicked, and found Mr. Patel on the ground, pale but breathing. Turns out, Bingo's barking drew the attention of a neighbor who happened to be a retired EMT. He got there in time to stabilize Mr. Patel before the ambulance arrived. By the end of the day, everyone was calling Bingo a hero. Even Carl, grudgingly, patted his head and muttered, "Good boy." 2 weeks later, the HOA voted to let Bingo stay. Mrs. Patel even baked him a dog-safe cake that looked like it belonged on a baking show. And me? Somehow, I'd gone from reluctant dog-sitter to the guy who bought Bingo squeaky toys for no reason. One night, sitting on Heather's couch while Bingo snored between us, Heather looked at me with a small smile. "You know," she said softly, "you've been amazing through all this." I shrugged. "Somebody had to keep him from burning down the complex." She laughed, leaning her head against my shoulder. "Yeah. But, thanks. Really." Bingo, half asleep, wagged his tail like he knew exactly what was going on. And that's how I learned 2 things. 1. Dogs are chaos wrapped in fur. 2. Sometimes, chaos is exactly what you need to shake up a perfectly boring life.